Hi, welcome to the Work Hard, Play Hard, and Give Back, a real estate podcast. I'm Mike Litzner, broker owner of Coldwell Banker American Homes. I'm at the studio in Franklin Square, and I have our guest, Christine Dato, top agent at Coldwell Banker American Homes, Hicksville location. So welcome to the show, Christine.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Before we get started, I want to remind our audience over here that if you like the episode, you like what we're doing here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us. And don't forget to stay around for the drop the mic question. We always have fun at the end here. So,
okay.
All right. So, Chris, let's get started here.
Let's go.
Come on. We know you've developed an incredible career at Coldwell Banker American Homes. But getting started in real estate is difficult. Anyone will tell you, right? It's a process, right? But you started your career not once, but twice.
Yes.
So why don't you walk our audience through this a little bit? What was the path for Christine Dato?
I had two very different careers. We have chapter one, where I was young. I was 25 years old. I was working at a job where it was 9 to 5, really more like 9 to 9, overworked, underpaid, and then I was buying a house. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, this looks kind of cool. I think I might want to try this. I left my job. I started real estate at 25, and I would say that my first year, I doubled my salary. I went from $20,000 to $40,000. And back then, that was
big money.
That was big. And it was great, and I really enjoyed it, except that I found that once the kids started coming, my husband was NYPD working overtime. We didn't have child care. We didn't have cell phones back then. We always had to be in the office. I was taking the kids on appointments with me. It was getting complicated.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was really complicating getting in my own way was me. I was only really working this business, I would say 50%, because I was young, I was very insecure, I wasn't confident, and I always found that I was intimidated by sellers. So I would mostly only work buyers. And therefore, I wasn't really maximizing this business back then.
No, working half the business. Now, it was funny because you and I actually did a deal together.
Yes.
I forget what year that is, but it was probably somewhere around
90, 91.
Yeah, yeah.
It was my mother-in-law's house.
Okay,
Yep.
that's right. So you had a listing, right?
No, I had the buyer.
You had the buyer.
You had the listing.
I had the listing.
I had the buyer.
All right. I do want to say it was Beach Street, by the way.
It was Beach Street.
Somehow these things stick in your brain, right? 35 years later.
And you know what? That deal, actually, I got to really work with you and kind of see the professionalism, which is why I actually wound up coming here the second time.
Yeah, because you were at a different brokerage in your first past
so
time.
I always worked with small mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
And, it was fine for back then. Well, at least that's all I knew.
Right.
And then when about 5 years into it and the kids, and it was just getting chaotic and it really wasn't working for me, I decided to leave. I was actually even an associate broker at that time.
Okay.
I decided to close that door, and I swore I would never go back.
Yeah.
And then, what wound up happening is I went back to market research. I actually did direct sales, which was a big part of my career with Leah Sophia. I sold jewelry. I had a big team of 75 people. I loved that job. I was running trips. It was great.
Yeah.
And then they closed the doors.
How long did you do the Leah Sophia thing?
8 years.
Okay, so what? So it was after kind of kids got to a certain age and you...
Yep. And my goal for that was to help pay for their college, and that's what it did.
Ah, good.
And then,
that's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, and then they wound up shutting the doors. They gave us 30 days notice.
Well, not much ramp time, huh?
Devastated.
Yeah.
And then I wound up, not sure. I was struggling because I knew I didn't want to go 9 to 5. I knew I loved the idea now because that really taught me how to set goals, that sales was my thing, that I really liked working with people. I liked making people feel good. So then I wound up talking to my husband, and Steve's like, why don't you go back to real estate? And I'm like, I don't know. And then Nancy Calber, who's our neighbor and friend, he whispered in her ear and said, I think you should talk to Chris about it. Yeah. And she did, and she's pretty persuasive, as we know. And she got me to have a meeting, if you recall, with you and Lisa. Yeah. And I thought about it, and I said, you know what have I got to lose?
Yeah, yeah. So
and here we are. I was 50 back then, and I was like, I can't believe I'm starting this at 50 years old. And here we are, almost 10 years later, and it's the best decision I made.
Yeah. It's
even better than Leah Sophia.
There you go. But it's funny how these building blocks of, different parts of your life help set up the next phase of your life.
For sure.
Right?
Like my market research job, like that plays a big part into what I do today.
Yeah.
The Leah Sophia, the whole just, setting goals and, really striving for that, having a why, having a purpose. Like it just kind of led into this, and it's really helped me with this.
Yeah. So now, as most, agents who have licensed have experienced, getting started is extremely difficult. So, and you've done it twice.
Right.
What did you do differently or experience differently the second time around, so to speak?
Okay. So you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And you have to make yourself available. And I found I always went to the office, number one, made sure that I connected with the other agents. Nancy was very instrumental, I have to tell you. She would, filter me leads to help me out, to kind of get me started. In fact, one of my best, I would say, transactions, because it led from one to many, was an open house that she had me do. And I kind of met somebody from there that really kind of kept things going in my business.
Yeah.
All referrals, right?
Yeah. Well, a big part of it, right?
So I think that it was important for me to always be at the office. I would sometimes be the only one there on a Saturday. Sometimes I get a walk-in. So I remember selling that buyer.
Yeah.
I would do the leads. I would do open houses for people. And then I definitely worked a sphere.
Yeah.
I didn't have a big sphere, but I wound up, looked at everybody who I knew. I'd sent them my initial letter. I remember, I would post on social media just to kind of make them aware. And then I found that what wound up happening is that people say, oh, I know Chris.
Yeah.
You know what? I think you just have to really put yourself out there.
Yeah. Now, you touched on something that's interesting. So the first time around, 1990, business
1989 to 94, 95. Yep.
So society, I want to say the real estate business was different. There's parallels because it's still a people business first, right?
Right.
And still a connection, type of business, but it's the way we do business. So the second time around,
so different.
Yeah. So you have the technology, and now there's a little bit of a challenge is getting agents to engage back, because everything can be done remotely. We have paperless transactions, potentially. We have, a lot of meetings or training done on Zoom. So, it's live, right? But it's not, you don't have to be in person. So do you have to dress up? Do you have to show up? It's not a long walk to your, kitchen table, your home office, so to speak.
I find that I'm much more productive when I'm in the office.
Yeah.
I am one that goes to the office a lot. I like being there. I like hearing people's stories. That's how you learn. You learn, who's dealing with what situation.
And how they dealt with it.
Yes, because then it kind of said, oh, I remember when so-and-so had this is what they did. And you have to listen. You have to really pay attention to what's happening there. I've also found that being in there this past year, I actually got a really phenomenal walk-in.
Yeah.
If I wasn't there, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, yeah.
So I believe that going in the office is important, even in this day and age. Just the camaraderie, I think, and learning.
Yeah. So it's what I think people who don't actually engage in the sale of real estate, it's one thing buying real estate, is they don't always understand the transaction and transaction management. And there's a lot of nuance to every transaction. So it's not just, here's the living room, here's the kitchen, it looks really nice.
Right.
Do you want it?
Right.
It's not like drive around. We always joke, like, you don't want me to supersize that? Please pull around. So we're not order takers.
Right.
And I think one of the more challenging parts of the job is not just bringing, buyers who want to buy and sellers who want to sell together, but, managing the nuances of both sides and the things known and unknown within a transaction,
Mm-hmm.
So having been through a number of numerous transactions, you want to share with our audience any unusual scenario that you ran into into a transaction, and then how you handled the challenge.
I had a co-op in Queens.
Okay.
And that seller was buying another house in Farmingdale, and I met the buyer for the co-op at the open house. I vetted the buyer. The loan officer told me everything was rock solid.
Right.
Because I always, make sure did you see, all their income information, their bank statements, everything was great.
Good.
And then they said that we had a commitment, and my buyer and my seller now is becoming a buyer, And they wound up buying, going into contract on a house. So now
Right.
they're selling their co-op, they're buying this house, they're committed. They have a lot of money at stake here.
They need the funds from the sale of their co-op in order to buy the next house.
And then all of a sudden, we get word that their buyer is now going to be denied.
Denied for the loan or denied by the board?
Mortgage by the bank.
Okay. So again, I always like to clarify for our audience.
Yes.
The difference between a condo and a co-op. A condo, you own the walls, the floor, the ceiling.
Yep.
You own your unit. And a co-op, you own shares in a corporation, which actually owns the entire building, and you get a lifetime lease back on it. So you have to, a buyer has to be approved not for financing, should they be applying for some, but they also have to be approved by the board.
Correct.
So they actually got approved by the board,
So we
but
got approved. We were all, and then all of a sudden, like right at the end, we get word that I guess they did some new verification for income.
Surprise.
And he had like no income.
Okay.
And it was a disaster. And I remember freaking out, and I just tried, you know what? There's a lot of things we can't control in this business. And I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I tried so hard to manage this and micromanage this and speak to the loan officer regularly.
Right.
I mean, it was like a miracle that, I was like, we have to make this done. There's so much at stake here.
Right.
And we did wind up closing that deal, but boy, it was a struggle. The loan officer wound up, I don't even know, I haven't had to talk to another loan officer to try to switch to a different bank. But he wound up staying put where he was, and they did wind up putting it together, but boy, did they really stress some people out here. A lot. It's funny though, ironically, that person who bought the co-op just recently called me. Looking to maybe buy now a house.
Well, so which shows you, however you handled the challenge there, it's, it was obviously well received. You got it to the point where you were able to resolve the issues and get everyone where they wanted to be. So I always say, by the way, and this is what I want to tap on, I think our audience should hear this, is that any agent can show up and take that phone call when things are great. Hey, got approved for the mortgage. We're set for closing. Yay. Call me back. And you're going to call them back. Oh, I'm so happy for you. It takes a great agent to show up when there's a problem. Did you ever notice that sometimes agents, all of a sudden there's a problem, noticing you can't get phone calls back? And a great agent makes the hard calls, not just the easy calls. So I'm sure that was difficult dealing with those calls there.
Oh, it was really hard. I mean, there was a lot of money at stake. There was families' lives in stakes here, and that's when I start to take it very personally. And I want to make this right for them, but there's only so much control I had. And I want to believe that everyone's being truthful with me when I'm asking the questions that I need to ask to vet them. But no guarantees. I always say that can't be 100% that they're telling me the truth.
One of my favorite sayings is, man plans and then God laughs. So they could be truthful, and it turns out they lost their job in the middle, and you can't plan for that. If they lost their job, they have no income, the bank can change their mind if they haven't closed the loan. Once the loan's closed, the bank's bought into it, and and they'll have to work through it. So again, I think our audience has a front row seat here, and I want them to see how exceptional agents are, because the things we need to deal with, known and unknown, to get us our clients to where they need to be.
What I try to do, honestly, is do a lot of that stuff up front to try to prevent the problems down the line. So like for my listings, for my buyer, like I just try to do a lot of due diligence up front, because I want to avoid as many curveballs and surprises as much during that transaction.
Right. Well, I think a certain amount of experience kind of gives you the insights to what to look for. And then you start to handle the problems before they're problems, right? No, that's awesome. So what is the major difference you see now in challenges than you saw maybe when you started the first time around?
You know what I don't like? I back then, our job was to find the homes for the buyers, and they'd call from the newspaper ads, and it was on us. We'd get our books, we'd look through, find the perfect listings for them. I feel like they took that part away from us with the internet now. Now everybody's just sending us listings, and they are telling us what they want to see. And it's fine. I have like a joke with all my buyers, like, listen, I want to find you the house.
Right.
Like I wanted to, and we'll kind of keep like tabs. Okay, well, that's right. Chris found us this one, because I feel like that's part of our job. The internet, we lost a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, because they send us things that I'm like, this is not what they want.
Right.
And then I have to explain to them, but they get caught up in that.
I think that's what you're speaking to is product knowledge. So haven't sold real estate, haven't sold Leah Saphir, I guarantee you knew everything about your product.
Yeah.
Right. And the problem with, I think, new agents or agents that come in, I think this is easy, is that they don't put the time. You touched on market research before.
Yeah.
Really learning your marketplace, understanding the product, what's available, what type of conditions. A buyer should know more about the available inventory than our agent.
Right.
And I see that as a opportunity for agents to improve, to be of a better asset to their clients.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. So for an agent just starting out, what's one piece of advice you'd really want to share, or that you've already shared with agents that are new to the business?
Well, I would say definitely come to the office, definitely be there to learn. I would also say to invest in yourself. I think a lot of it, and I get it, some people, different financial situations, but I think it's important in this business to know that you have to invest in this. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not one for the Zillow thing or anything like that, but more like in your sphere of influence.
Yeah.
The people who know, love, and trust you.
Yes.
Invest in them. So what I do, and I usually tell new agents, is mail them things. Not just a letter, not just a postcard. Give them a little something, a little trinket, a pen. My screen cloths I give, they love them. I get great responses from that. My little koozies for their, White Claws or whatever. Like, we definitely want to give them something that they're going to hold on to.
Right.
And that they're going to remember me.
Right.
So I think that's
and remember that you're in real estate.
Exactly.
Because you're memorable, but
right, yeah.
You got to go, if someone's new, you got to go from Christine, my friend,
yep,
or neighbor, to Christine, my friend,
right,
who's in real estate.
I think people get too quiet about that, and they're uncomfortable discussing it and telling people and talking about it. And even just on social media. I don't love posting things on social media. I get uncomfortable myself about it. I don't want people thinking, oh, she's annoying or whatever, but you have to do it.
You have to find your voice.
You have to do it. They have to be in the forefront of their mind so that they know when they're looking for an agent, they're going to call you.
Yeah.
Because they know you.
Right. And they trust you.
Yes.
And trust is a
big thing.
Yes. Yes. You can't be a secret agent.
No.
Mm-mm. Yeah. So, no, I think that's a great piece of information. So anyone who's thinking about joining in real estate, listen to what this woman's talking about. She knows what she's talking about. Chris, you're consistently recognized as a top producer. What habits or mindset do you think you have contributed most to your success?
Well, I'm goal-oriented. Every year, I do set a goal for myself of what I want to achieve. Listen, you shoot for the moon, you might get to the stars, I always have like a why. Why am I doing this? Like,
right,
what am I looking to get out of this? And it's funny, my earlier years, like, I was okay. I was average. And then all of a sudden, a life event happened that I said, oh, I gotta save some money here. And my son was getting married, and I wanted to help him pay for his wedding. And all of a sudden, it was like when hashtags kind of became a thing. Every deal was like, hashtag Mama's got a wedding. Like, I was just so focused on reaching my goal for that. Yeah. But what was cool is that while I was doing that, I was helping all these people move. Yeah. And I was getting such, it was like, it was fun.
Yes.
I think that you have to kind of be very goal-oriented in this business. If I keep track of my numbers. I'm always looking at them just so that I can stay focused on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm floundering. If I don't have a goal or a purpose, I'm floundering.
It's interesting, these stats on goal setting, and they say, like, typically the most successful people all have goals. That's one of the things you see in commonality. Mm-hmm. And yet they say only like 3% of real estate agents actually have a goal.
Right.
And I think the other thing you just touched on should not be smoothed over, because a goal should not just be a dollar amount.
Right.
You said it, and I want to make sure our audience doesn't miss this. You need to know a why.
Yes.
You could take $100,000 and put it on the table, $100 bills, and it looks impressive, but at the end of the day, what does that represent? Mm-hmm. What does it represent to you? And you were just so effectively articulated that Mama's got a wedding. I love that. It's just, so now that Mama already took care of the wedding, do you want to share one of your upcoming goals?
right now, it's really more about like my retirement right now.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of focused on that to just, not that it's happening anytime soon,
Right,
but
right.
but I want to
Someday.
I want to be prepared. And
Yeah.
now I have a grandson, and
Yeah.
you know, I want to be able to provide as best as I
Yes.
possibly can.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind
So
of
what's
my
your
goal.
Hashtag? Mama's got
I
a
don't have a hashtag.
Mama's
but
got a grandson?
That's right. Yeah, hashtag Mama wants another retirement house or something. I don't know.
Steve, you listening? Yeah.
Yeah. No, you know what? I'm not really sure. I just more like I just want to make sure that we're prepared and you know, and we're in a good place.
All right, good. I like it. So, Chris, you've consistently earned the prestigious Quality Service Award. What does delivering outstanding service mean to you?
That's everything. Honestly, that is what I feel helps. It sets the tone. If you're giving good service, everything is going to come back.
Right.
It's going to benefit everybody.
Yeah.
You know, the people you're servicing as well as yourself.
Yeah.
So that's always a main goal for me, because to me, that's why I'm doing this. Like,
Right.
yes, of course, you know, we make a good living here, but I love the idea of helping these people. And
Yes.
To get the Quality Service Award, they have to fill out a survey, get a certain score, right? They usually write some nice words or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very meaningful to me, and it means a lot that it keeps me motivated.
Yeah.
To keep on going.
I think agents sometimes need to be reminded that referrals happen by design, not by accident. You know, so if someone that you know doesn't transact with you in real estate, it's not on them. It's on you, the agent. What have you done to position yourself, to put you, you know, make yourself valuable, make yourself available? If they don't remember you're in the business,
Right.
then it's not their fault. It's sometimes difficult to look in the mirror and say, okay, what could I have done better? But I think a really top agent can be that transparent with themselves. They can look in that mirror and ask
Right.
themselves that question.
Yeah.
Because even if we all make mistakes, we're human, and that's okay. But, you know, are we okay with challenging ourselves to be better and make improvements?
Yeah, no, I think that's a big goal of mine, is to really go above and beyond so that they're really happy with my service,
Yeah.
you know, and that they would recommend me to somebody if needed. But I just want to make sure I'm doing a good job.
Yeah. So can you share with our audience, so what's the best testimonial you have ever received?
Well, there was one that my friend's son helped him purchase a home. I think this thing must have been like 4 pages long.
Testimonial, 4 pages?
I was like, it went on and on and on, and it was beautiful. I mean, and the detail was really, really nice to read.
Yeah.
And honestly, on some hard days, like if you know, real estate can have some tough days.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's my go-to, is to just go to a testimonial and say, you know what, maybe this was a bad day or whatever, but there's somebody out there who has appreciated my service and my, you know, my help.
Yeah.
But no, I honestly, every single one of them are great ones to me. You know, even if it's one-liner, you know, the fact that somebody took the time to do that, I am always so appreciative, because they didn't have to.
Right.
I mean, how many times do we get, you know, things and, you know, you don't respond to that?
Yes.
So when they do, it just means so much to me.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna change my answer to, they're all amazing.
Okay. Now, I know you post your testimonials on your website.
Sometimes, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, which is good. And what I find that caught my attention was, no, it's a good thing, is that theoretically they say if you treat someone right, you're lucky if they tell one person. But if you treat them wrong, they tell everybody.
Right.
So just because you did an above average job doesn't mean they're going to actually take the time to tell you or anybody else, and or take the time to fill out that testimonial. And I think it speaks volumes when you can sit here and say, well, not only did they fill it out, but they wrote 4 pages worth.
Yeah.
And this isn't the time before ChatGPT, right?
Yeah. This kid's an excellent writer, though. I have to give him kudos on that.
Yeah. No, I have to give you kudos on that, because he felt that compelled to respond. So good. Good. It's no surprise that you're achieving the success you are. I understand you recently did a buyer-seller seminar, right? So what's a key takeaway from that seminar you can share with our audience?
You know, that's something that we started doing just a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago or so, and it really was out of my comfort zone to do this.
Yeah. So you do it live?
We do it live. In fact, no Zoom. You have to be present.
Okay.
And it's such a great event. I love doing them now. And I find that people, the feedback I get is great. People are really enjoying it. And I have a whole slideshow, and we kind of go, and I do it with Tom Nails a lot.
Yeah.
And we basically kind of go through the process. And we do it we do buyers and sellers at the same time.
So Tom Nails is also a very successful agent in our Hicksville office, by the way, for our audience who doesn't know.
Yes. So we do a good tag team here.
Yeah.
And basically we go through the whole process of as a buyer and a seller. So each side gets to see and hear what the other side is dealing with.
Yeah.
So they leave there with great information to know, okay, this is how this is going to work.
Yeah. What's the most common buyer question, for instance? Is there a commonality to some of the questions? I'm sure. Is there any, or is there one more surprising than the other?
From a buyer's perspective,
what do they want to know when they're thinking about buying?
They're terrified, honestly, and they're terrified in this market because the prices are so crazy. They're scared. We're talking about waiving things like they don't even understand.
Right.
So I think it's more they come there with a little bit of fear.
Right.
And my goal for them is to leave more confident that we're going to help them, it's going to be okay, and they're going to get a house.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times right now people are fearing they're never getting a house. You know, it's going to take forever.
So in a marketplace that has been rife with bidding wars over the last 3, 4, 5 years. So it's, when you're getting, 6, 8, 10 offers, there can be a lot of disappointment.
Yes, and that's where we play the role of counselor with these people because I always tell the buyers, listen, and sometimes we get lucky. Like I just had one where first offer we got accepted,
Okay.
Sometimes it could take 6 or 7 offers before they get one accepted.
Yeah.
But I always tell them, like, the house you meant to get is going to be the one. Like, you didn't get those other ones because this one that you're going to get is the one for you.
Yeah. I'm smiling now because I'm thinking that my own son bought a house within the last couple of years, and he lost 4 bidding wars before he got one. I'm like, man, I think he needs a better realtor or something. But it's a challenge, right?
And it's a challenge because it's really not even listen, the agent has a lot to do with it. I think how I structure the offers, how I really present it to the listing agent, they usually do tell me like, wow, okay, you really buttoned this thing up nicely. But I can't control what their down payment is.
Right.
The
terms.
Sometimes that's where we're falling short.
Yeah. So just again, I think you're hitting on something really important. When we deal with negotiations, right? But people fail to think everyone thinks price, and it's really price and terms.
Right.
Since there's contingencies very, very often, the standard one for our audience members who aren't in real estate is typically contingent on financing. So understanding the risk reward of that financing, what's the likelihood they're going to get approved?
Yeah.
As opposed to another one that would be all cashed.
No, terms are everything. So I do try to structure their offer in a way that I have my own little system that I have my emails all very clearly defined. It's detailed. I have the loan officer call the listing agent and vet that buyer. We'll waive like certain things with appraisals in there. If they can, if they're willing to.
Because it comes with a risk potentially.
What team they're using for, mortgage inspection, attorney. We try to make sure that it is just buttoned up, that this is going to be a really smooth deal. And I think also as you get more experience, people have done business with you, I think they start to feel more comfortable. As a listing agent, if you've done another deal with that agent, that also helps sometimes too.
Now on the listed side, so we talked about, so you've done the buyer-seller seminars. Is there a more common question you're getting from sellers at the seminars?
They too come in with fear. And that's what I feel a lot of this is. They don't know. These people haven't been involved in a real estate transaction in 30 years sometimes. Or they don't understand the whole process. So I think for the most part, like a lot of times they'll get, oh, but I don't have a CO for this, or and they get so nervous that this is gonna they can't sell their house.
Right.
And, again, it's just educating them on how we're going to handle it, how we're going to problem solve this, and how we're going to make this work.
Correct.
Yep.
But even something as simple as that, it is potentially a challenge.
Correct.
Because one of the things we represent in a contract as a seller, we're selling a legal dwelling. So if there's an issue, how do we meet that? How do we meet that challenge?
Well, it's funny. We talked about like what kind of challenge did we have? I had one house. They did not legalize a dormer, an entire dormer. Front, back, full dormer. And I'm like, how am I selling this? Oh, and it was an open permit.
That's even worse.
It was open. And I didn't even know how I was going to do this. Yeah. But I managed. We got a buyer. I checked with the loan officer, and they wound up closing that deal.
Yeah, there you go. But I believe you're hitting on, and again, as a broker, I can see this, because a good agent recognizes the problem and doesn't run from it, but they're transparent and communicate.
Yes.
So when you communicate the problem up front, even, everyone could get their arms around it, as opposed to it comes up at the end and surprise. No one likes surprises, especially when we're dealing with high ticket items here.
This is their biggest investment.
Yeah.
So, and it can be very overwhelming and very stressful. And I find that I want to try and ease that for them.
Yeah.
So before, I always do a FOIL request. I'm always looking. I have a little access there. I found a little site where I can go and dig through files for permits. And this way I can say, buyer, we don't have X, Y, and Z in place, and this is how we're going to sell it, as is. And as long as everyone's on board, it does usually work. Yeah. To prevent that from happening during midway through the process, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait, you don't have a CO for that garage conversion? We want you to get it. Now the seller has to go and pay a lot of money to get the permits in place.
How long does it take to get a response on your FOIL report, by the way?
Okay. So I submitted one, it's usually the next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
They take them by email, right?
Yeah, you do it right online. It's really very, very simple.
Yeah, for our audience, in case you're wondering what a FOIL is, it's Freedom of Information Act, so you can request public information.
And it's great because, you know what, a lot of times these sellers, they think, oh, no, we have all our permits in place. Everything is great. Or, it's an estate and they don't even know. And they're like, my father had perfect paperwork. Yeah. And then before you know it, there's these open permits. There's no permits. There's, so it's just better to be in the know beforehand and handle that and tackle that situation head on than wait for it to be thrown at you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and how many times you run into it's like, no, the contractor was handling that, and then the contractor didn't handle that. Right. Or I bought this house this way.
And honestly, I try really hard to not be alarming about it.
Right.
With my client, but just to say, let's just know what we're dealing with and let's figure it out.
Yeah. No, perfect. All right, so Chris, I think we want to pivot here, and we want to talk a little bit more about the play hard, the human side of this. But before we do, I just want to remind our audience to like and subscribe. We'd love to have you see our future episodes that are coming up, by the way, and stay around for the Drop the Mic question. So, does Christine have a happy place when she's not doing real estate? Where do you go to recharge? What does Christine do to get downtime?
I'm very social.
I didn't notice.
My husband and I have, great friends. We have lots of different circles. We love to go out. We love to eat. We love to dance. I love to party. I love to do all that fun stuff. Yeah. I also love to play pickleball.
You're a pickleball junkie?
Oh, yeah.
Are you good? Come on, you were probably at one of these ranges.
I'm average. I would say I'm average, but I really enjoy it. It makes me feel young. It makes me feel athletic. It makes me feel really good about myself. Yeah. And I have a lot of fun with it. I met some great people.
Good exercise.
Great exercise. I like to go to the gym. But yeah, so we definitely every weekend there's always something happening pretty much. Yeah. So yeah, I like that fun.
All right. Well, good. I like that too. So what's a hobby or interest or even a hidden talent of Christine Dato?
Oh boy. A hidden talent. This isn't the Drop the Mic question?
No. Wait, there's more.
Oh boy.
Come on, what's a hobby or an interest?
So I was a dancer when I was growing up, and I happen to love, my love was always tap dancing.
Really?
Yep.
So we have to stop this episode and get the tap shoes out here? You're going to do a little soft shoe for us? Or?
But yeah, that was something I always enjoyed. Now, I'm going to say it's pickleball right now.
Yeah. That's your thing.
That's my thing.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. If you can instantly master a new skill outside of real estate, what would it be and why?
I don't know if it's really a new skill, but something that I kind of would like to do more is kind of a little bit more reading, a little more downtime for myself, because I do tend to keep my schedule really busy. Yeah. And I feel like just for my own head space, just to kind of have a little downtime.
Okay. What topics do you like to read?
More self-help kind of books.
Okay.
I'm actually reading The Let Them, which is a big book right now that's out there, very popular. And so I enjoy it, and I feel like I'm getting a lot out of it, and it makes me feel good. So yeah.
All right,
go
good.
With that.
All right, reading. Note to self.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, my daughter's she reads like 80 books a year, so I'm never going to be anything like that. But even if I read a couple, it's more than what I read last year.
All right, good. Now, you mentioned your daughter, so I understand you have a new love of your life.
So that's for my son. Yes.
Yeah.
So my son was very has given me the greatest joy of having a grandson.
Okay.
And
what's his name?
His name is Roman.
Okay.
And he's 17 months old, and he is just an absolute pleasure. He's a fun, happy, just great little guy.
All right. So, what's your nickname? Come on.
I'm a Gigi.
Gigi, there you go.
Yeah.
So
he said it, and he's been saying it now, so it's kind of cool to hear him call me that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he's so awesome.
The next part of the pastime.
Yeah. It's something that and especially with this job, it's kind of hard sometimes because I really have to make the time. I can, with our schedule being so all over the place that I literally block off a day like every 2 weeks and say, I need to go see my little guy,
Yeah.
So that's tomorrow's.
Some Roman time, right?
Yep. Because you know what? I don't think about any stress. I don't think about anything but just hanging out with him.
Yeah. Now, he's how old now?
17 months.
It's such a great age, right?
Oh, he's just he's literally happy all the time.
Yeah.
And a good sleeper. Like, he's just a great kid.
Yeah. If you had completely free weekend with no real estate calls, how would you spend it?
It's funny because there's not too many of those, right?
Right.
And Steve and I are always like, we, want to go to the wineries. We want to go away for the weekend. But they're always so hard to plan.
Yeah.
Because we just never know what the schedule is going to, like even this week. Someone's like, we want to do the open houses this weekend. I'm like, okay. But we do really enjoy being with our friends and our family. Yeah. If we have a free day, Steve and I are going up to Rockland County to go spend some time with, our grandson or my daughter, even with her husband. And, just to be with our family and friends is probably our favorite thing to do.
It's a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So, Chris, we want to switch to a little bit about giving back because that's such an important part of the culture at American Homes. So is there a cause or local initiative or organization even that's particularly close to your heart?
Yes. So it's Feed Long Island, and it's actually a client of mine who I sold a house, I don't even know how many years ago, maybe 8 years ago.
Okay.
And she's an amazing woman. And she started a Facebook group where she feeds people who come to her. They have local people who have no food. And honestly, my family was like that. And I kind of wish that I had somebody like that who could have helped us out back in the day.
Yeah.
So that one really very near and dear to me. Okay. So whenever she posts, like today she did, need money for a family. I'll Venmo some money, know.
Does she take on individual challenges, or is it just like a food pantry?
Individuals.
Okay.
So that's where I feel that the connection, I think, that it's literally for specific people.
Okay.
And we also do...
Before we leave that, because it sounds like it's a really good cause, is there ways if someone wants to find out more about it where they can?
Her name is Brooke. But if anybody is interested, they can reach out to me and I can connect them with her.
Perfect.
We also, I don't say we, but she, and I love to participate in it, for Christmas time. We're all, we buy for families. And she says, how many kids do you want to buy for? And we just, it's amazing what she does. Easter, every holiday she is collecting. And this woman is just... what she is doing for people is changing and really making a big difference. Yeah. And I'm very inspired by her.
Good. I'm inspired by her, and I haven't even met her.
Yeah. So actually, Steve and I years ago used to do an annual fundraiser where we would host in like the firehouse and have a DJ and whatever. And we would pick an organization every year. And people would come and they would bring money and we would donate to that cause. And it was whatever amount they wanted to give.
Right.
So she doesn't know this yet, but we're hoping, and I'm fingers crossed, that we're going to be able to do that this year for them.
Excellent. So you've built a very strong relationships with your clients. How important is community to you both personally and professionally?
I have been living in my neighborhood since 1989. I feel like I've raised my family there. Yeah. I've been connected with churches. I've been connected with the schools, the PTA. I feel like I can walk into the store. I see people. It makes it a very small town feel for me. Yeah. Which a lot of people moving out of state. I kind of feel like they lose that, and I thrive on that. Like I love feeling that it's home. Yeah. So I really do enjoy that part of where I live and just haven't been there for so long.
It's really both personal and professional.
And I think that kind of goes hand in hand then, right? Yeah. So if people in my community know me and they're familiar with me and they need a realtor, they may, hopefully think of me.
Yeah. I know you recently held a Relentless Determination Award, or you have that give out. Is that an annual thing?
So I have done that, and I think I did it for about 5 years.
Okay.
Basically, it was an award that I would give to a Mepham senior, which is where my kids went to school.
Okay.
I always felt like when I sat there with my own kids at the award ceremony, it was always like the same kids getting the same awards. Like all the, and I always felt for the kids who really didn't get them. And maybe I thought that if I could come up with something where it's the kid who overcame some kind of adversity or some kind of challenge that really persevered, and it always went back to what our company's position was on that. Yeah. So the school would pick the student, and they picked them based on my criteria. Right. Basically, that they overcame a challenge and came shining through.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I like that a lot. Mm-hmm. So you recently were invited to sit on a panel for the What Moves Her event. It's a women empowerment initiative sponsored by Coldwell Banker. So how was that experience?
Well, similar to this is out of my comfort zone, as that was too. Okay. But boy, what an honor that was to be on that panel with those women.
Yeah, it was a great.
It was great.
Four women, strong, successful.
If you would have told me 10 years ago that I was going to be sitting there with like Barbara Mullaney and, I would have said, no way. I was very honored to be asked to do that. It was cool because, I think we all had a lot of similar ways of doing things and how we thought about this business. Yeah. And I learned a lot even just from their stories.
Yeah. It was an interesting event because it was about 70 people in the audience there. So it was well attended. Yeah. So what was your biggest takeaway from that event?
Being a guest speaker, I laugh because I'm so hard on myself. Yeah. And I was the one with all the notes and I wanted to be prepared and, really. And I realized that it was okay to just speak more fluidly. Yeah. And I didn't have to be so
perfect.
Yes. They're not even perfect, robotic, like just more, I didn't need to read. I could just speak from the heart because this is what I do, real estate every day. Yeah. So I got that was a good takeaway for myself. Right. To have more faith in myself, and I guess I'm here now, but this is still a little hard for me. And then from the other people, it was great to hear that they kind of aligned with a lot of my thought process. That I felt like I was on the right track. Right. And I even I got some great tips, like even from Valerie, like how she talks about like how really analyzing different markets and like really diving in. Like I thought that was an awesome tip.
Yeah, that was Valerie Rosenblatt, by the way, you're referencing, who has been on the podcast already as well. Very well spoken, smart agent. Very smart agent.
Yeah, so it was great to hear everybody's story, and and everybody had a different why of why are they doing this, and I do bring it back to that. That's a really important piece to this. Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge that you feel comfortable, maybe, that you've had to overcome that you'd like to share with our audience?
I'm going to have to say, and I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit, but it was always a confidence issue for me. Yeah. And I worked so hard at trying to overcome that, and I think I've come a long way. Yeah. I do believe that 16-year-old me would be proud. Yeah. So I think that I would say that.
It's so interesting because from my vantage point, you always came across as confident.
Yeah, no, I work at it every day, And I think us, women in particular, I think that's just something that we've just struggled with, and me, definitely had some issues growing up with that. But I feel I'm in a good place now. I feel, I think as we achieve and we do and we help people and we feel good about ourselves, that makes that whole confident package get a little bit stronger.
Yeah. Good. I want to remind our subscribers to please, if you like what you're hearing here today, please remember to like and subscribe and join us for future episodes.
It's time for the Drop the Mic question.
So, Christine.
Mike.
If your life was a TV show, what would the title be?
Friends.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Friends. And I say that because, you know what, I feel like I do. I'm really blessed with a lot of great friends, and we have a really good time.
Yeah. Got a bunch of characters in your life?
Bunch of characters in my life.
But you laugh a lot?
A lot.
All right. That sounds really good. So I want to kind of twist this. So if you had a song that had to play every time you close a deal, come on, or a theme song for your TV show.
Let's get this party started.
There we go. Well, Christine, you've been an amazing interview. You're an amazing agent, and we'd love having you on the show. If someone wants to reach out to you, how do they find Christine Dato?
They can call me at 516-557-3974, or you can actually also reach out to me on some of the social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram. And my handle is cdato, 4, homes, and that's on Instagram and Facebook.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for joining our show.
Thank you. Okay,
Excellent.
appreciate it.